How to not write characters. The other day I actually reviewed this book called The Fifth Sorceress, and it's the first book in the Chronicles of Blood and Stone. And it was one of the worst books I've read this entire year. And in fact, the longest video I have made this entire year was the rant review for that book. Well, I actually didn't talk about the characters enough. And I wanted to really delve into this more. This is the final time. I don't want to ever remember this book. But I will delve into precisely how to not write characters with this story, with this book. And I'll give you precise examples from the book, and I'll describe the main characters, okay? So, let's talk about the main characters in this story. We have Tristan, who is the main protagonist. Then we have Wig, who is the Gandalf wizard, who actually guides the chosen boy along the journey, right? And then we have Shailiha, which is the chosen one's sister, and he will have to rescue her because she has been kidnapped by evil sorceresses. And then finally we have the evil sorceresses themselves, the Cove of Sorceresses, I believe, and the Coven, I believe. No, sorry for that. Anyhow, generally speaking, let's talk about one by one and what is wrong with these characters. You see, I want to first of all tell you one thing before we delve into this. There is nothing wrong with having a cliche in a story. Absolutely, in no way am I saying that having any of these things one at a time is wrong. Chosen one, nothing wrong with that. Evil sorceresses, nothing wrong with that. You can tell a very beautiful story with that. Kidnapped damsel in distress, you can tell a very interesting, engaging story with that. I'm not saying that any of these things are wrong. What I am saying is a combination of all of them in one story is the definition of awful. It is the definition of lack of effort. It is the definition of writing a story that you don't give a damn about. In fact, it is the definition of writing a story that, the author simply wrote for the advance money. Because back when this was released in 2001, there was this boom in the fantasy genre, okay? And everyone was basically taking any fantasy book and anything that had the fantasy label, especially epic fantasy, and they were publishing it. There was no attention to, there was no attention in any way to quality. Everyone just wanted that big, epic fantasy, chosen one boy protagonist going on a journey, fighting dragons, and everyone would buy the book because it was that, right? And this is awful, first of all, in my opinion, but generally speaking, this was what was happening back then, okay? And this is when that book was published. In late 1990s and in early 2000s, that's when this book was published in 2001, January 1st. It was awful, it was terrible. However, let's talk about the characters now, okay? The first character is Tristan. He is supposedly the protagonist, and he is a chosen one. I will list out all the cliches with all the characters that are wrong with them, okay? We have Tristan. He is the chosen one, special, beyond any doubt, okay? He is insanely good. There's nothing wrong with him, okay? He is the definition of the moral archetype. And then he is super handsome. He's so handsome that all the women that see him in this story, they want to immediately rape him. Yeah, it sounds hilarious, but it is true. All the female characters in this story want to sleep with this guy so badly for his blood, for his special dick. I am not joking. Everyone wants his special sauce. And it sucks that he is this terribly written. Number 3, let's talk about how this guy is the reluctant hero, okay? We see this a lot in the spy genre, okay? In a lot of spy thrillers or a lot of assassin stories, we have this guy who is badass. Back in the day, the John Wick figure, he retired, he doesn't want to come back. Oh, you killed my dog, now I'm back. And so generally speaking, we have this reluctant hero. And he doesn't want to do all of these things, but all of these things are thrown upon him and he has to deal with them. And I don't know why this is interesting to anyone. It is not interesting to me in any way, but it is what it is. And what closes it down for me is the reality that he really never is tested. Let's move on to Wig. Wig is the wizard, the Gandalf figure that is guiding him through, to the journey, right? He's guiding him through the journey, and he is helping, he's very loyal to Tristan, and he's helping Tristan find the sorceresses and stop them. Well, guess what? Wig is, first of all, a beta version of Gandalf. He's not as funny as Gandalf, he's not as wise as Gandalf, and he is not as interesting or intriguing as Gandalf, because we know everything about him from the get-go. At least you don't know everything about Gandalf from the get-go. He's this ludicrously powerful, impossible figure, okay? And there's a lot more to learn about him. So he's just a beta, Bud Light version of Gandalf. He's not interesting. And this is what I'm talking about. The author, Robert Newcomb, takes the most basic archetype and he makes that his entire story. And he treats it as if he's unique and deep by having a lot of monologues. No need to swear, but yeah, it's just not good. Let's move on to the next one, which is the sister, Shayliha. And Shayliha gets kidnapped. She's very good. And of course, you see, there's nothing wrong with a very kind-hearted woman, okay? Thank the Lord she's a kind-hearted woman, because a terribly awful person is a terribly awful person. I don't want that. The issue here is that she is made that way by the author, not because she has to be that way, but because he wants to make sure to get you to care about his characters, okay? When she gets kidnapped by the sorceresses, the evil witches, well, he wants you to really feel for this character, and therefore you like Tristan more, and you can put yourself in the place of Tristan, because that's how this works. You're supposed to be the hero. That's how a lot of this stuff works. And so, generally speaking, it is awfully uninteresting. And there's nothing wrong with a good-hearted woman. The problem is how this is used as a technique for a replacement for good storytelling, basically as a replacement for good storytelling. Let's move on to the next character, which is a group of characters, the villains in this story, the group of sorceresses and a coven of sorceresses. And they want world domination. In fact, that's all I will say. They are not interesting. They are not engaging. There is nothing interesting about them and their struggles and their desires. They are awful villains by the definition of an awful villain, okay? I've had my point. This was a more deep dive into the characters and what was wrong with them. And ultimately, what is wrong with them is how they are basically a compilation of stereotypes, but there is no attempt, I'll repeat one more time, there is no attempt to explore anything in depth in here. It is basically the broadest representation of these archetypes that you can imagine at all. Even Shayliha is, of course, she's beautiful, and also she's pregnant. She gets kidnapped. You should really care about her. It's just boring. It's dull, okay? I hope that you enjoyed this. Have a nice day.